All right, so last week there was a brand new Hummer announcement, and I felt kind of intrigued by it enough that I feel like I should talk about it. So let's get right to it. All right, so first off, kind of before we get into everything else about what the new vehicle that's coming out, let's talk about Hummer in itself. So Hummer, as you know, there was the military vehicle that was made by AM General. Then somewhere in 1998, good old GM decided to go and license out the name. And they kind of took over the brand and became a sub brand of GM from 1998 to 2010. They kind of, and then of course in 2010 it closed down due to the whole bankruptcy and financial crisis that happened in '08 and stuff like that. So it kind of stirred off there. Once that happened and GM took over, then they rebranded the Humvee, which is the civilian version, over into the Hummer H1. A lot of people actually don't realize that although it was branded as a GM vehicle, AM General still made those vehicles, which I suppose makes sense. They have all the tooling and everything for it. But a lot of people thought that it was completely a GM production after that point, but not. No, no. AM General still ran with it. However, it was really the Hummer H2, in my opinion, that was kind of the most controversial. This was designed by GM and had GM underpinnings and engines. It was a GM vehicle for sure. It shared the same GMT 820 platform, which was used for the 2002 to 2006 Tahoes, Yukons, and Escalades. If anyone knows those cars, those are very much brand engineered and the same car is pretty much in and out with slight modifications. But the Hummer version actually did use a slightly unique version of that platform. I'm not going to go through the changes. They changed some of the front end frame and things like that. So it was slightly different, but essentially it is that platform. It also used, like I said, engines and transmissions from GM directly through the entire 6 year run. They even had a pickup version called the HT SUT. Thing is, though, that even with all that stuff they had there, I believe that this is the vehicle that hurt Hummer as a brand. When people think of Hummer as a luxury vehicle, they think of the H1. But when they think of everything that's wrong with Hummer, I think a lot of people think of the H2. I know a lot of people like the cars, but the reality is that not a lot of people talk really highly about them today. They did back when they came out, but not now. People think that they're sleazy, they're overindulgent design, really bad fuel economy, inefficient use of space. Although it was, it was capable off-roading and stuff. The looks made it look like it could do a lot more than it actually could in the real world, as far as in the off-roading. I mean, for an everyday vehicle driving around, sure, but it didn't deliver on what its looks can go through. So I'd say definitely for all the four offerings that Hummer had through its run, 4 or 5 offerings, that the Hummer H2 seems to be the one that everyone always talks about negatively. There's also a fourth car actually, which is the Hummer H3. That's kind of the baby of the whole bunch. It was based on the GMT 355 platform, which was the same as the Colorados, the GMC Canyons, and stuff like that. Consequently, it did use the same engines and transmissions as those cars. I guess not surprising. And as far as I know, it didn't sell particularly well. I peruse car offerings here and there, and I can't remember the last time I saw an H3 for sale in any capacity. So, it doesn't seem to be a very popular car. So, going through that quick, very, very, very summarized quick history, let's get back to the present where we're going now. And what we'll be seeing, what GM is saying, they're going to be announcing and showing the final product in May 2020. Um, but before that, I just also, like I said, just want to remind you guys to make sure to give me your thoughts and what you think of the Hummer EV, where you think the brand's going to go, things like that for sure. Make sure to put that in the comments. All right, so now we're in the present. And for those who don't know, the new Hummer is coming back not as a return for the brand, but as a GMC model, interestingly enough. So it's going to be the GMC Hummer. GMC Hummer EV to be specific. It's got some serious numbers behind it. It's got 1,000 horsepower. That's what it's promising. An unreal 11,500 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels. I make sure I specify that because from what I'm reading about the car, I have done some research on it to find out more details. Apparently, at the quote-unquote EV engines, motors essentially, that they'll be making around the 800 foot-pound mark, but then they're multiplied through the transmission, and that's how you get the 11,500 foot-pounds. There will be rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive options, and potentially I'm hearing could be 1, 2, or 3 motor options, but that's been very vague. And 0 to 60 times in 3 seconds. So pretty crazy, right? Um, I imagine that this is going to be some platform sharing to some degree. If it's going to turn out to be an SUV, I imagine it's going to be based off the Yukon, the Tahoe, the Escalades, especially since it was just announced. If it turns out to be a Hummer pickup like the H2 SUT or anything like that, it could be based off the Sierra Silverado. We'll see about that. I have seen debates on both sides on speculations. Oh, it'll be this or it'll be that. Could be an SUV, could be a truck, whatever the case. But I'm not an insider. I can only know what I've found online and stuff like that, and that's still unfortunately very much up in the air. Now, here are some of the things that do interest me, though. So first off, based on everything I've talked about above, a little bit of the brand history and the announcement of the car, I believe that the Hummer brand has been tarnished. Um, a lot of people don't hold it in the same regard they did when it first came out, and like when civilian versions came out, and even when GM took over in 1998 and started branding it, the H2 again was looked at in a way kind of like how the Escalade was looked at in pop culture and stuff like that, right? By the end, by the time the brand had closed down, people considered it a relic and not a good brand at all. I know, again, I know a lot of people liked it, but in 2010 when it closed down, it was generally despised by almost everyone I talk about. Um, I do hope that the using the name doesn't tarnish the announcement of this car, especially if it turns out to be a pretty good car. Social media buzz has been really good. I have seen a lot of stuff online that looks pretty good about it. But it was still a mystery in what is to come, and I think that's where part of the buzz in the brand, the numbers being promised, and the Hummer brand and everything. Depending on what's shown, depending how it looks, depending how efficient it is, things like that, could determine if in May 2020 that people see it as a renaissance of the Hummer brand, or if the damage has been done enough in the 2010s, the early 2000 to 2010, that the brand will not be able to recover, and even though it's a GMC Hummer, it's not going to be enough. The second thing I find a little more interesting, actually, and I think when you look at the writing on the wall, it kind of is easy to see where this is going. I strongly believe that based on the history of the brand, based on what we know so far and what's coming, I believe we're going to see an SUV. I think seeing a pickup truck, not like as likely. I also think if they were going to do a pickup truck version, it'd be smarter to name it the Avalanche, right? The Avalanche is actually a pretty revered truck model. I know a lot of people looked upon it more favorably than sometimes even the equivalent not Tahoe, sorry, Sierras and Silverados at the time. So I know that it didn't sell particularly well, as from what I understand, but that would be a name to bring back if it was going to be an EV pickup truck. So I think if they're bringing the Hummer name in, it would be an SUV. Also, we just got announcements for the 2021's Yukon, Tahoe, and Escalades. And what we're hearing about those is that there will be hybrid and electric versions of it. Now, considering that these models were all engineered at the same time, obviously, it makes sense. It would make sense that this would have been engineered around the same time as well. And the delay also makes sense because, they're still adopting the EV platform. And as I understand, this model, although we'll be seeing it May 2020, won't be coming till like end of 2021, early 2022. So there's still some time before we actually see this model on the road. I believe that with seeing this EV model, if it does turn out to have rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive options, if it does have 1 or 2 or 3 motor options, that this will also be the benchmark, the foundation for what we will eventually see is the electric Escalade, and then eventually, of course, as usual, that'll trickle down to the Yukon and Tahoe as well. So it just seems to make sense to me to see an SUV version, and I would be curious to see if those cars will pull the same numbers that this is claiming to be pulling, because that would be very interesting. All in all, this is just speculation at my point. I just wanted to talk about it. I also wanted to put it out there because I feel like once we get the announcement in May 2020, I would like to come back to this video, take a look and see what they actually did. Did an SUV come out? Is it going to have the tri-motor options? Is it rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? Will it deliver on the power? Is the brand tarnished, or will the use of the name and this kind of revitalization and renaissance help bring it back to the forefront? I would like to come back to this video and see that at that point. But for now, I just thought it was an interesting thing. I want to talk about it a bit. And so here I am. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you very much for watching. Now the YouTube stuff. I always love a great feedback, so make sure right off the bat to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Now, if you like something on the channel, definitely like it. Give it that thumbs up. If you disliked it, thumbs down for sure. But let me know why. That's what the comment section are for. And whatever it is, if you like something, then I know it's working. And if you dislike something, then I know something didn't. But let me know why, so I can continue to build a channel and make it better for me and for you. Aside from that, commenting is great too. So if there's something you can do better, something you can do different, any tips for other viewers, I'm all about that too. So make sure to put that in there. If you have a question about something that's maybe not even related directly to the video, leave that for me as well. Other than that, I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next video.